In every league, you seem to have those teams that are competitive year in and year out. And we just talked about one of those teams in the last video, the Brantford Bulldogs, who have won two OHL championships since 2015 when they relocated from Belleville. But there's other teams on the other end of the spectrum that they just don't get a break. They don't make the OHL finals. They have difficulties winning their own division. They don't go far in the playoffs. And that team happens to be the Sarnia Sting. But they seem to be making strides to improve that reputation, and we'll get to that in a few minutes. But this organization arrived in Sarnia ahead of the 1994-95 season. Before that, they were playing in Newmarket as the Royals for a couple of seasons, 92 until 94. But before that, this organization has its roots in Cornwall, the Cornwall Royals. They played in the city of Cornwall from 1969 until 1992. So much history with the Royals, and there's a lot of people who would love to see the OHL back in Cornwall. That's for a different video. This one, we're going to focus on the Sarnia Sting because this franchise has had some great talent come through and play. However, they either don't stick around because they get drafted high in the NHL draft, think of Steven Stamkos, or they just have bad luck along the way. And that's kind of where the Sarnia Sting sit in the Ontario Hockey League. They have never played for an OHL championship, and they've only made it to the Western Conference once since arriving in Sarnia, which is really hard if you're a fan of the Sting because you want to see this team make it to the final and be competitive year in, year out like some of the other teams in the Ontario Hockey League. David Lagwand and Darian Hatcher, they purchased the Sting in 2015, and they seem to be changing the culture. We're starting to see that play out over these last few years, and hopefully we'll see a championship in Sarnia sooner rather than later. But we'll get to the playoff history in a few minutes. Let's start things off with the top scorers in franchise history. So we're just looking at the Sarnia Sting, and leading the way is John Sim, 165 goals, 146 assists, good for 311 points as a member of the Sting. Sitting second, Jordan Kyrou. He had 99 goals, 191 assists, 290 points during his time with Sarnia. Chris Newbury, he is third, 110 goals, 158 assists, good for 268 points. Justin DiBenedetto, he is fourth with 112 goals, 137 assists, good for 249 points. And then Trevor Letowski, fifth in franchise scoring. He ended his career with 93 goals, 155 assists, 248 points. Then in sixth, we have Ryan McGregor, 90 goals, 138 assists, 228 points. Jeff Hirma, he is seventh. He had 99 goals, 120 assists, 219 points during his time with Sarnia. In eighth, Dusty Jameson, 87 goals, 126 assists, 213 points as a member of the Sting. Ty Voigt, he's ninth with 58 goals, 155 assists, 213 points. And rounding up the top 10 in scoring for Sarnia, Eric Himmelfarb, 80 goals, 125 assists, 205 points. Shifting focus now to the goaltenders, the top five in wins. Justin Fazio leads the way. He had 92 wins during his time with the Sarnia Sting. Patrick DeRoche, he is second with 63 wins. We have Robert Garrison in third overall with 58 wins. Ryan Muntz had 55 wins during his time with the Sarnia Sting. That's fourth best in franchise history. And sitting fifth, Ben Goudreau, 54 wins. He ended up being traded in his overage season last year to the Erie Otters. But if he would have stuck around in Sarnia, probably could have ended up top three at least in franchise wins. But right now sitting fifth. When you look at the Sarnia Sting players who have moved on to play in the NHL, there have been 47 who have gone on and had great careers in the NHL, and also a few players who've been selected first overall in the NHL draft. In recent history, you've got Steven Stamkos and also Nail Yakupov, although his career didn't end up being that long in the National Hockey League. Retired numbers, just one so far. Steven Stamkos, his number 91 is up in the rafters in Sarnia. Such a great example of a leader, great leader on and off the ice, and he really enjoyed his time playing with the Sarnia Sting, so it's great to see his number 91 raised in the rafters. Now, when we look at the playoff history for the Sarnia Sting team, you're going to notice a trend. I'm going to start in 2000. I've been doing that with all the team history videos. In 2000, they ended up losing in the first round of the playoffs. The Windsor Spitfires in 7 games. 2001, a first round exit, this time to the Plymouth Whalers in 4 games. 2002, another first round exit, this time to the Erie Otters in 5 games. Again, first round exit in 2003, this time to the Guelph Storm in 6 games. 2004, they win their first ever division title, but they're knocked out in the first round of the playoffs by the Erie Otters in 5 games. So, see, as I mentioned, there's a trend here. They get to the playoffs and then they're knocked out in the first round. 2005 and 2006, they missed the playoffs both of those seasons. 2007, though, knocked out in the first round by Kitchener in 4 games. 2008, with Steven Stamkos on the team, they went to the second round, and it was a big deal when they made it to the second round of the playoffs. However, they had to play the juggernaut Kitchener Rangers and were swept in 4 games in the second round, but they still made it. There was some optimism going forward for the organization, but in 2009, another first-round exit, this time to the Plymouth Whalers in 5 games. Now, they would miss the playoffs again in 2010 and 2011, but they made it back to the postseason in 2012. But it was a first-round exit, this time to the Saginaw Spirit in 6 games. 2013, you guessed it, another first-round exit, this time to the Plymouth Whalers in 4 games. 2014, they missed the playoffs, but they're back in the playoffs in 2015, but they're knocked out in the first round by the Erie Otters in 5 games. So you can just see what these Sarnia Sting fans have had to go through. Just they make it to the playoffs, they have some hope, some optimism, and then knocked out in the first round. In 2016, they win their second West Division title, but they're knocked out in the first round, this time by the Sioux Greyhounds in 7 games. This team just cannot catch a break. 2017, yep, another first round exit, this time to the Erie Otters in 4. But in 2018, they make it to the second round, but they're knocked out by the Kitchener Rangers in 6 games. 2019, first round exit, this time to the Saginaw Spirit in 4 games. No playoffs in 2020 or 2021. When we get back to playoff hockey in the OHL in 2022, the Sarnia Sting again knocked out in the first round by the Windsor Spitfires, this time in 6 games. But in 2023, the Sting decide to go all in. At the trade deadline, they make a huge move, picking up Del Mastro and Luca Del Bel Belluz from the Mississauga Steelheads. They gave up a lot, though, sending Angus McDonnell and Porter Martone to the Steelheads, but this team wanted a deep playoff run. They knew they had the pieces in place, and they made it all the way to the Western Conference Final for the first time in franchise history. However, they were knocked out by the London Knights in 6 games, but still, something this organization has never done before since arriving in Sarnia was go on a deep playoff run. Management has said that they don't want to do that again, where they sell off the future to go on a long playoff run, but still, that's how the OHL seems to work. You buy big at the deadline. Although the London Knights this past season, their biggest addition was Caleb Lawrence at the OHL trade deadline, so I guess you don't necessarily have to make these big trades, but when you've got the pieces and you feel like your team can go on a deep playoff run, you got to make these kind of moves. Although seeing Porter Martone potentially go in the top draft next summer, it's got to hurt a little bit when you see players having the success that they are on a different team. Then in 2024, of course, after going all in, they ended up missing the playoffs. So this is it's been a tough go for the Sarnia Sting in the Ontario Hockey League. Just 2 West Division titles since arriving in Sarnia. So hopefully this organization can start to turn things around. I would love to see the Sarnia Sting in an OHL final, just to give that excitement to the city of Sarnia, because it's a fan base that has gone through a lot of struggles, a lot of hard times. The 2 times they won their division, knocked out in the first round. So this is a team that they're overdue for some success. We'll have to wait and see what next season has in store. I'm expecting the Sarnia Sting to have a better season than what we saw this past year, but it might be a couple years before they're threatening for maybe winning the Western Conference. But still, the Sarnia Sting, I think they've got a long-term future in the city of Sarnia. They play in a beautiful facility, and we just need to see some deep playoff runs with the Sarnia Sting organization. So that's how I see it from the booth. Let me know in the comment section down below your thoughts and maybe your favorite moment with the Sarnia Sting. Love to see the interactions. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe. I'll also be adding this video to the ongoing playlist of all the OHL team history videos. we're almost near the end of doing all 20 OHL teams, just a few more to go before we wrap this up. So again, thank you for all your support. We'll talk to you again soon.